Hello everyone, welcome to Hoopla 101. My name is Emily West and I'm the Digital Services Librarian here at the Rochester Hills Public Library. And today I am going to be showing you how to use Hoopla to download ebooks, audiobooks, movies, music, and TV shows for free to you through the Rochester Hills Public Library. So what is Hoopla? Hoopla is available to you for free with your Rochester Hills Public Library card. All you need to sign up for Hoopla is your library card number, your 4-digit PIN, an email address, and to create a password associated with your account. All you need to have it on a digital device. You can use it on your cell phone, your tablet, such as an iPad, for example. You can do it on your desktop computer or laptop, or you can watch the movies and TV shows on your TV screen. We'll talk more about that later. So the first thing you're going to do is, if you are downloading the app onto your device, you are either going to go to the App Store if you have an Apple device, the Play Store if you have an Android device. If you're doing it on your TV, you are going to download the Hoopla app onto your TV. Or if you're going to use it on your computer, you are going to go to the website hoopladigital.com. HOOPLADIGITAL.com to get started. Now the thing is about Hoopla is that it's going to look a little bit different depending on what device you use. That's something that's a little bit frustrating with the application, especially when I'm trying to show people how to use it. The layout, also sometimes known as the UI or user interface, is slightly different depending on your device. In any case, the process for signing up for an account is going to be pretty much the same across all devices. Just the questions might look a little different, or the setup a little different. But when you get started on the computer, these are screenshots taken from the computer screen. If you have it on your cell phone, the Get Started button is going to be in a different location. Either way, you're going to tap Let's Go or Get Started. Hoopla, the app, might ask you to use your location. If you have an iPhone, you're going to tap Allow once, and then Hoopla will, based on your location, find libraries near you that use Hoopla. The first option that you're probably going to see is Rochester Hills Public Library, Michigan in parentheses. If you are out of state, it might not, or out of town, you might not see that Rochester Hills Public Library option. If so, you're going to search for your library, Rochester Hills Public Library, and tap on it. We recently had an update with Hoopla that requires all of our library patrons to sign in with both their library card number and their PIN. This presentation is a few months old before we instituted the change requiring PINs, so this screen is going to look a little bit different, but you're going to put in your library card number, the entire number without the spaces, and your 4-digit PIN. The PIN, if you do not know what it is probably the last 4 digits of your phone number. The next thing you are going to do is enter your email address and your password. One thing that I really want to stress to people that are listening is that the 4-digit PIN and the password for Hoopla are two very different things. The PIN is associated with your Rochester Hills Public Library account, and your password is only for Hoopla. As you can see, it must be 8 to 40 characters long. And then once you are done entering your email address and password, you are going to click Complete Registration. And now you're ready to get started, so tap Get Started. And this is what your home screen is going to look like. There are multiple things you can do from here. You can either search for something specific that you already know what you want to look for, or you can browse through the various different categories. So as you can see, this is, by the way, what the screen looks like on an iPhone or an Android. It's going to look like this. The layout will be slightly different on the computer screen and even more different on the TV screen, but we'll talk more about that later. The general idea, though, is that you are going to want to look for these categories right here. So if you don't know what audiobook, for example, you want to look for, you just want to look at the options, you can tap on audiobooks. When you tap on audiobooks, you will see featured lists of the different audiobooks that Hoopla has for you available to borrow. You will also get to see some lists curated by theme, so like Halloween related audiobooks, Valentine's related audiobooks. I'm recording this on April 17th. There will be Easter related books. They're going to be grouped together for easy access under all of these different categories. Also, what you are going to see in the recently borrowed section is what you have borrowed in the past. It both has things that you have currently borrowed right now, but it also has your history of things that you've borrowed previously. So, if you see this play button right here, this play button, it's something that I currently have checked out. For example, if I press on this play button right here, then I can start listening to the audiobook right away. Another thing that you can do in order to access things you have currently borrowed is you go to the My Hoopla section of the app, which is this button right here at the bottom, second from the left. The first thing we are going to learn how to do is how to search. I'm going to give you a few hints for searching because it's not super intuitive. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks that are both useful for Hoopla. They're also helpful for Libby, and also some things that might be helpful on the library's website's catalog. Speaking of the catalog, I want to make another thing really, really clear. I strongly recommend, if you want to know if something is available on Hoopla, I recommend checking the Hoopla app or the Hoopla website's catalog. I would not recommend relying on the library's catalog. The library's catalog and Libby's catalog or Hoopla's catalog do not sync up super well. We're still working on that, but I would always resort to checking Hoopla itself to see if the book is available on Hoopla. Sometimes the library's catalog says something is available on Hoopla when it's not, and vice versa. The same thing goes for Libby. The reason for Libby being a little bit trickier, that's a whole different conversation. Long story short, we belong to a consortium, so some of the things that are available on Libby are available to a bunch of different libraries, not just the Rochester Hills Public Library, which makes it more difficult to sync with our library's catalog. In any case, just hammering home, always try to check the Hoopla catalog first. So what we're going to do is search for a music album, for example. So I am going to search for an album by Taylor Swift. Now, you have two different options. If you want to search for an artist or an actor, a director, any sort of person involved in the creation of something, such as the author of a book, for example, my recommendation would always be to type in last name, comma, first name. For example, if you are searching for books by James Patterson, you would type in Patterson, comma, space, James. This tells Hoopla that you are specifically searching for a person. If you, for example, are searching for albums by Taylor Swift and you typed in Taylor Swift, you are going to find lots of different titles that might not necessarily be related to what you are looking for. So if you type in just Taylor Swift, for example, like I did at the top of the screen, your search results will be both music albums and books about Taylor Swift that were not necessarily written by Taylor Swift. So to make things easier for you, like I said, last name, comma, space, first name, makes it easier to search by person. But for the purposes of this example, I'm only searching for music albums. So I'm specifically looking for her first album. So as you can see, I'm going to show you a couple of different things. Do you see? It might be hard to see on the or on your screen on YouTube. These red letters right here that say PA. PA refers to parental advisory. These are usually attached to music albums or books or movies, for example, that are not necessarily recommended for young children. They're recommended for teens, adults, or up. A lot of like video games, for example, or movies will have ratings on them. It's kind of similar to that. So that's why you might see two of the exact same album, PA and then without PA. So the first thing that I'm going to look at is the Taylor Swift, her very first album, which is conveniently titled Taylor Swift. So when I tap on the album, this is what the screen is going to look like. And say this is something that you want to check out. I'm going to go through what you are going to see on the checkout screen. So you are going to see the name of the artist. You're going to see when the album came out. It says 2008. The name of the album and some of the reviews. It looks like it's got 4.2 from 138 reviews. Apparently people really like this album. So if you scroll down a little bit this way, you are going to see a brief description of the album. You can favorite the album. Favorites are found in the My Hoopla section of the app. The favorites are a way for you to save something for later. Say that you want to borrow it, say in a few weeks, but you don't want to borrow it right now. You can add it to your favorites and come back to it later. Speaking of borrowing rules, you are allotted 10 borrows per month, a maximum of 10 borrows per month. So I'm going to explain what that means. If, for example, you check out 2 items today, you have 8 more borrows to use by the end of the month, because 10 minus 2 is 8. You have a maximum of 8 more borrows before the end of the month. For example, if you return those 2 items early, the number does not go back up to 10. So if on today, on April 17th, you borrow a book and you borrow a movie, you've got 8 more things to borrow before April 30th. On May 1st is when the number goes back up to 10. So if, for example, and those things don't carry over, like you can't stack more things. For example, if you still have a movie checked out to you that you checked out in April and you still have it in May, that counts toward one of your May borrows. It doesn't, you don't have a total of 11 borrows. You have the one item that you had already checked out in April, and say you just check out one thing in April, you have 9 more borrows in May. So if you are checking out a ebook or an audiobook, you have it for 3 weeks. If you check out a music album, you get it for 1 week. If you check out a movie or one single TV show episode, you get that episode or movie for 3 days. 1 episode equals 1 borrow. You cannot check out a whole season at a time under a single borrow. Like I was saying earlier, all of your borrows are going to be found under the My Hoopla section of the app. It's going to be in the Borrow tab. And like I was saying earlier about favorites, your favorites are going to be in this section right here. So you have things that you have currently borrowed here at the very top, and then things that you have borrowed previously under previously borrowed. But I'm going to show you what the audiobook is going to look like on the screen. I'm going to tell you a couple of different things. Thing number one, you are capable of listening to audiobooks in the car through Hoopla. If you have a newer car model, I would say most cars, especially if you have an iPhone, I know Android does something similar, have something called Apple CarPlay. Apple CarPlay works on most newer cars. I would say anything less than, say, 7 or 8 years old. Your car can have it show up on your touch screen inside your car on your list of apps. So when you plug in your cell phone into the car or you connect it via Bluetooth, you are going to see the Hoopla app show up either on your Android device or on your Apple device through Apple CarPlay or Android CarPlay. So it's pretty seamless, and for safety reasons, they make it very intuitive. Like the buttons on your steering wheel are going to be pretty intuitive, like fast forward, go back, skip to the next chapter, skip to the next song, just as you would if you were listening to a music album or if you were, for example, listening to music on Apple Music. So that is how that works out. Speaking of doing it in the car, if you borrow an audiobook, this little button right here, that's the car, this is another one of those features. If you do not have Apple CarPlay or you don't have it for the Android as well, you can tap on that little car button and then it will make the screen easier and safer to use on the road. So you're doing like big swiping motions instead of having to try to like focus in on different buttons. No, for safety reasons, they make it really easy for you to keep you focused on the road while you can still listen to the audiobook. If you're not listening to the audiobook and you're listening to it when you go to sleep, for example, I'm going to turn your attention to the bottom left corner of the screen. This is sleep timer. This is make sure that the audiobook stops after a certain point so that you're not missing out when you've already fallen asleep. So it's going to stop playing after a chapter is over, or it's going to stop playing after a certain amount of time. All the other buttons on the screen may be pretty familiar to you. The pause and the play button is going to be right here. You can skip forward 15 seconds or go back 15 seconds. These little buttons right here are going back and forward in a chapter. You can also do what's called scrubbing. Scrubbing is when you are sliding forward on this little white circle, either forward or backward, to go forward and backward in the book. So say you want to skip ahead or you lost your place and you want to go back, then you would simply use this white slider to scrub forward or back. Another important thing for you to remember is the table of contents are under this chapters section right here. The chapters section, you can go skip forward to a chapter or go back to a chapter. So if you swipe right, so swipe this way, you're going to see this screen right here with the list of all the chapters. And if you swipe left, so swipe that way, this is the repeat off, shuffle off. This is really more important if you are listening to a music album. You probably don't want to be shuffling or repeating things if you're in an audiobook that has to be listened to in a specific order. But this is just an option for you. It's the same options if you are listening to a music album. Now let's look at the ebooks. This is probably going to be familiar to you if you are using like a Kindle Paperwhite or if you're using Libby. the basic idea is pretty similar. So if you tap on the right side of the screen, you can go forward a page. If you tap on the left side of the screen, you can go back a page. Similarly, you can swipe left or swipe right to go back or forward a page. Other things you want to be aware of is it shows you how far you are into the book. I will say this number, page 1 of 369, does not directly correlate to physical book pages because this entirely depends on the size of the text of the book. So if the text is going to be a lot bigger, this 369 number is going to be a lot bigger. The vice versa is true. If the text is smaller, you're going to have a smaller number of pages left. Speaking of which, I'm going to show you how to adjust the text size. So if you turn your attention to the top of the ebook screen, these letters right here, A, is how you adjust all of the accessibility settings. So you can change the brightness of the screen. You can change the book's font. So you can change it between sans serif or serif fonts. There are even a couple of fonts that are more dyslexia friendly. You can also change the size of the text of the book. So you can either make it really big or you can make it really small. It's entirely up to you. You can also change the theme. So you can have a white background with black text, a gray background with black text, a black background with white text, or this cream colored background, and that is going to be more similar to a physical page of a book. The table of contents are going to be this little list looking icon right here, those 3 lines with those 3 dots. That's how you access the table of contents. So you can go back a chapter or you can go forward a chapter. Bookmarks is also going to be under here. If you want to bookmark a specific section of the book because you want to go back to it later, it's going to be under bookmarks. You would simply tap on this little bookmark looking up icon in the top right corner. If you highlight a section of the text, you can do that by tapping and holding on the text and then dragging which section of the book you want to highlight. That's also going to be under this section right here under highlights. You can also search the text of the book by clicking or tapping on this magnifying glass. By tapping on the magnifying glass, you can search for a specific word, you can search for a character's name, you can search a string of words, like a sentence or a phrase, and then it will take you to that section of the book with those words and phrases. And the next thing we're going to look at is anatomy of an album. So this is going to be fairly similar to what we were looking at when we were looking at ebooks. Additionally, just like with the audiobooks, these work really well with your car as well. So when you have it plugged in physically with a cord or through Bluetooth, you can play your music albums in the car. I chose Tchaikovsky because Tchaikovsky is one of my favorite composers, so I found an album of his with multiple different pieces. And these pieces don't necessarily need to be listened to in a particular order, so when you swipe left, so swipe this way, you're going to see this screen right here where you can repeat the album, so once it's over, you start over again from the beginning, or you can shuffle the pieces so they're not played in the original order that the album had them in. If you swipe to the left, so swipe this way, you are going to see the list of all of the tracks. You can skip forward, you can select which one you want to listen to, or you can just simply go along with the order of that the album is in. This is what it's going to look like if you were watching a movie or if a TV show. It's going to look the exact same. So if you are watching, like for example, this movie called A Man Called Ove, this is what it's going to look like on your computer screen or on your cell phone. So like pause and play, go forward 15 seconds, go back 15 seconds. This adjusts the volume And then also the settings, which are going to be up here in the top right. It's going to turn off or turn on the subtitles. Speaking of which, yes, you can stream from your TV. So for during when I was actually recording this presentation, because this is a re-record, there is a, I can link it in the description if I can in the YouTube video, but there are specific instructions for connecting your TV to Hoopla. I was messing up with this last night, and I'll give you a couple of tips, because this is going to be very different depending on what kind of TV you have and what kind of devices you have to stream it. So it works on Roku, it works on like the Amazon Fire Stick, which I think is the Roku, it works on Apple TV, it works on whatever the Android TV is as well. I have Apple TV, which I was using at home. I would suggest having the Apple TV box connected to your TV, not just the Apple TV app. So when you download the Hoopla app, what you are going to do is then you are going to open up Hoopla on your cell phone. I would recommend having the app or having it open on your browser. You are going to enter into the app or the browser the 4-digit code that shows up on your TV, and that allows your Hoopla account to be connected to your TV. One thing to keep in mind, I always recommend people to have the Hoopla app on your phone just in case you ever might need it in the future. Or you can always resort to doing it in the browser. I still recommend having the app. It makes things a lot easier. So I'm going to briefly show you the settings. One thing to keep in mind, this is what the settings look like on an iPhone. The settings are going to be different on an Android phone. The iPhone and the iPad have the same layout, but the Android phone is going to, instead of having different sections of settings, the settings is all going to be on one single page. With an iPhone, it's going to be different settings. So I'm going to show you what those settings are. If you go to personal settings, this is where you can update your email address and or password. You can hide your history, so if you don't want to see what you listened to or watched or read in the past, you can turn that off. Download only on Wi-Fi. When you check out a book and you download it, not streaming it, downloading it so that you can watch it later, it would do it so it's only doing so on Wi-Fi. If you want to, for some reason, cancel your Hoopla account, you would go here. Library settings is where I show patrons to go the most often, because recently when we required that all of our patrons confirm their library account with a 4-digit PIN on Hoopla, I would direct patrons to go here so that they can enter their library card number and 4-digit PIN to tap Save Library Settings. I also directed a patron to go here when she moved from out of town. So she moved from a different part of the state that had Hoopla, and then she moved to Rochester Hills. She had to cancel her old library account at her old town and reinstate it through Hoopla, and also just in general at the Rochester Hills Public Library. And this is where she had to go to update her library card number and 4-digit PIN is on this section of the app. So yes, you are still able to maintain your Hoopla account if you move states or if you move out of town. This makes it easier so long as the new library has Hoopla available. Finally, there are the notifications. If you are familiar with Libby notifications are significantly more complex. You can manually pick and choose what kind of notifications you would like to receive. However, with Hoopla, it's less sophisticated. You either have email notifications on or off, push notifications. Push notifications just go to the phone itself. on or off. This will notify you, for example, when an item is ready for you, or not if an item is ready for you. This will notify you when you have a problem with your account, or notify you if something is coming up due. Why only Apple? As I was saying, the Android looks a little bit different than it does on an iPhone, and then the computer, if you're on the desktop, it's going to look even more different, and even more so on the TV. But Emily, I have a Kindle. Well, I have some good news and some bad news for you. The good news is that it works on Kindle Fire tablets. If you have an Amazon account and you have an Amazon Fire tablet, you can download the Hoopla app onto the tablet. However, if you have a Kindle Paperwhite, it's not going to work because Hoopla is not compatible with the Kindle Paperwhite. It is with Libby. It's very complicated. This is not something that the library has control over. This isn't really something Hoopla has control over. It's what I like to tell people is a Bezos problem. So Bezos problem meaning it's a problem with Amazon. This is a decision that they made. This is not something that we can control. Could they potentially do this in the future? Potentially, but unfortunately, we are not privy to that information. Final disclaimers before we wrap up today. This is especially important to know if you are wanting to check out movies and TV shows, is that Hoopla doesn't have everything. Like I said, this is not a Hoopla problem. This is not a library problem. This is a streaming problem. Streaming problem meaning that because streaming services like HBO Max, Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, so on and so forth, some of these streaming services have exclusive rights to their TV shows and movies. You might not find them on Hoopla. For example, Bridgerton is exclusive to Netflix. You're not going to find it on Hoopla. Star Wars movies are exclusive to Disney Plus. You're probably not going to find it on Hoopla. And this is unfortunate because you would then have to buy into a Netflix subscription, for example, or a Disney Plus subscription instead of resorting to using the library's digital services. It's unfortunate, but that's just the state of the world we're in with the 1.5 million different streaming services out there. And that is all for today. Thank you for coming to my Hoopla 101 program.